If you deliberately plan on being less than you're capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be unhappy for the rest of your life. Abraham Maslow. You ever catch yourself looking at a project or maybe just the end of the day and thinking to yourself, yeah, that'll do. You're not alone. We've all been there. There's a comfort in that good enough space, especially when you're tired or drained. It can feel like you're being smart with your energy. It's about balance and being realistic. And on the surface, you're going to tell yourself it makes sense. You didn't blow the deadline. You didn't not do enough. But if you're being honest, all you did was you just finished. On the other hand, have you ever paid attention to that little voice that pops up right after you decide to call it, asking if that was really all you had to give? We've been conditioned to think that failing is what happens when things go wrong or the goal isn't met. We're so focused on the results that we miss the actual moment of the collapse. But there's a way of looking at it differently. What if the failure isn't the bad outcome? What if the failure happened before that, when you still had a little more in the tank, but you made a conscious choice to pull the plug? Your lack of success, or if you're failing, is because you decide that good enough is acceptable instead of giving your best. That internal compromise to accept less than you're capable of isn't being practical. It's where your standard starts to die. Now, granted, none of us wake up one morning and say to ourselves, today's the day I'm going to start being mediocre. It's not an unexpected cliff that you fall off of. It's more like a slow erosion. It's the standards creep. It's what happens when you make a series of small, apparently logical decisions that on their own don't seem like a big deal. Maybe it's a project you're about to submit. You know there's one more detail you could check, or one more way to make the point more clear. But you're close to the end of the day, and you just want to be done with it. So you say, this is fine. They'll understand it. And in that moment, your brain affirms your decision by telling you that you're being practical. You're being efficient with your time. The danger isn't the one project. The danger is that next time a similar situation comes up and your brain remembers that good enough didn't cause the sky to fall. So you do it again. And eventually, you've made so many of these practical decisions that your entire baseline has shifted down a notch, or two, or three. And the thing is, we're so busy patting ourselves on the back for being realistic that we don't see the gap widening between what we're doing and what we're actually capable of. We've turned a temporary shortcut into a permanent habit. And the worst part, we aren't being forced to settle by the circumstances. We're choosing to settle through 1,000 tiny sensible concessions that we start to believe that this new lower version of ourselves is just who we are now. Think about this for a minute. How do big systems fail? It's rarely because of one massive unexpected failure. It's usually because people got used to things being slightly off or good enough. Sociologist Diane Vaughan coined the term normalization of deviance. It's the gradual process where breaking safety rules or standards becomes normalized within a culture, where unacceptable risks are repeatedly accepted without immediate catastrophe. Think about it. If you cut a corner, but the project still succeeds, your brain doesn't see it as a mistake. It sees a new, easier way to work. You think, well, nothing bad happened last time, so why put more effort in this time? This is where good enough becomes a destructive phase in your vocabulary. We think we're managing our energy, but we're actually gambling. We're betting that the shortcut won't catch up to us. And because it usually doesn't bite us right away, we start to believe it's no big deal. We stop seeing the shortcut as a compromise and start seeing it as the standard. We keep drifting further away from what we're capable of, and we normalize being less than we are. And the problem is that it's not just with our work that's going to suffer. It's that we're subtly changing the rules of who we are with everything else. But eventually, the shortcuts stop being a secret you keep from others and start being a secret you're trying to keep from yourself. Each of us is usually pretty good at justifying things to the world. We have our reasons, our excuses, and our logic for why we don't give our best effort this time. And most people around you will accept it because they don't know your true capacity. They only know what you show them. But you know. And every time you decide to settle, you're telling yourself, I'm the kind of person who quits when it gets inconvenient. Think about how that affects your confidence. Remember, true confidence isn't just about winning. It's about trust. It's the knowledge that when you tell yourself you're going to do something, you're actually going to do it. But when you make a habit of settling, you start to lose that trust. You stop believing in your own words. There's a part of you that starts believing you'll probably only do enough to get by. This betrayal of self-trust is a heavy weight to carry. It makes every future task feel harder because you aren't fighting the work. You're fighting your own history of letting yourself down. It's a difficult feeling to realize you've become your own worst negotiator because you aren't just losing out on a better outcome. You're losing the ability to rely on yourself when things get difficult. And once that trust is gone, it changes the way you look at everyone else who's out there. They're still pushing. It changes how you react when you see someone else refusing to settle. It shifts your perspective from being inspired by others to being bothered by them. Once you've made peace with good enough, you start to look at people who haven't much differently. I guarantee you've been in a meeting or working on a project where someone is still pressing, still asking questions, and still trying to clarify the details when everyone else is ready to head home. And I'm certain that you felt the spark of annoyance. I know you've said to yourself, why are they making this so complicated? Or, it's not that big a deal. We make ourselves feel better by labeling those people as overachievers, as if their commitment to a higher standard is somehow a character flaw. But if we're being honest with ourselves, that irritation usually isn't about them. It's a mirror. Their refusal to settle highlights where we decided to stop. It's hard to watch someone else give their all when you know there's more that you could have done and you chose not to do it. This resentment of the settling is a bitter thing. It's easier to judge someone else's intensity than it is to admit we've lowered our own. We start to see excellence as a threat rather than inspiration. It's like we want everyone else to lower their standards so that we don't have to feel so bad about where ours are sitting. But that kind of thinking just keeps us stuck in the middle. It keeps us safe and comfortable, but it also keeps us small. It's a strange place to be where you're actually rooting for mediocrity in others just so you can feel more comfortable with your own. It makes you realize that settling doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you cheer for. However, that's a pretty significant shift in your perspective. One that eventually leads to a much bigger question about where all of this is heading in the long run. We settle because it feels like the safe move. It's the way we avoid the risk of being not enough. But if you consider what people actually regret when they get to the end of the line, it's rarely the things that they tried and messed up. It's almost always the things that they didn't even attempt. It's the weight of the avoidance that eventually gets to you. Because when you fail at something that you gave your all to, yes, it hurts. But it's an honest kind of hurt. You know where you stand. But when you settle, You're left with this lingering, unanswered question of what might have happened if you'd just given a little bit more effort, or if you'd even tried. That's the hidden failure. It's not about the project being a disaster today. It's about the person you're going to be 10 years from now, looking back and realizing you never actually saw what you were capable of. It's not that you're just avoiding the risk of failure. You're avoiding the risk of growth. It makes you think about how we define a win. Is it just getting through the day without any issues? Or is it knowing that when you finally end your day, you didn't leave anything on the table? If failure is the decision to stop pushing when you still have more to give, then success really isn't a destination. It's just the refusal to quit on yourself before the work is actually done. It's about deciding that the temporary relief of calling it quits isn't worth the permanent regret of wondering who you could have become. So to close this out, the thing that stands out most is that this isn't about being a perfectionist. It's not about never being satisfied or driving yourself into the ground until there's nothing left. It's actually so much simpler than that. It's just about that personal moment at the end of a task or at the end of your day, where you're the only one who really knows if you've crossed the line or if you just stopped short of it because you didn't feel like going any further. There's a lot of noise in the world telling us to do more, to be more, and reach higher. But at the end of the day, all that outside pressure doesn't really matter. The only standard that's going to stick is the one that you set when you're all alone with yourself. It's that feeling of looking at what you've done and knowing you didn't leave any part of your potential behind just to save a few moments of discomfort. Maybe success isn't some big shiny trophy at the end of a long road. Maybe it's just the internal confidence that comes from knowing you didn't negotiate with who you're capable of being today. You're worth the extra effort. So next time you're tempted to say it's good enough, take a moment and ask, is it? As always, thanks for spending a few minutes with me. Until next time, stay sharp, stay grounded, and keep showing up.